Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Susanna Suisuiki. Coming up.
The boat returned to the location after a night offshore from Rarotonga.
The search to find a Fijian crew member who fell overboard has been called off. Also,
it's an accidental thing. There's no blame in it. There should be no shame or stigma in it.
Niue looks to eliminate hepatitis, and
this centre aims to take in anyone who is breathing and who wants to learn.
A former PNG politician shares what she's been up to since retiring 12 years ago. The Cook Islands police have called off the search for 22-year-old Luke Wakayawa, who fell overboard on an inter-island ferry over the weekend. Mr. Wakayawa from Fiji was a crew member on Lady Moana, which was returning to Rarotonga from Mangaia. Police spokesperson Trevor Pitt told Caleb Fotheringham the lifesaver ring that had been deployed when Mr. Wakayawa went overboard was found. He says police had done as much as they could in its search effort.
The search and rescue operation was assessed this morning in discussions between the Maritime Commander and the Commissioner, and it was agreed that the search and rescue be stood down, remain in a stand-down position, given that the patrol boat conducted quite a comprehensive search of the location area where the man was missing. The boat returned to the location after a night offshore from Rarotonga and located the lifesaver ring which had been deployed at the time that the man went overboard. So based on the grid search pattern that was covered over the entire area, taking into account the currents, it was decided that the patrol boat had done as much as it could in the time, the 2 days that it covered. So the search and rescue will remain stood down.
Yeah, it's very, very sad, obviously. Was the ring, seeing that lifesaver ring, was that a bit of a confirmation to call off the search as well? Because I'm imagining you would expect the man to be fairly close to the ring, and it's probably quite a good sign that the search was being conducted in the right area.
Yeah, when the man went overboard, the lifesaver was deployed straight away, and it was being sighted throughout the morning, floating. So it unfortunately it just continued that way throughout the 2 days. So no sign of the man.
With the search being stood down, what does that mean for the man? Does that mean he's considered a missing person, and then it goes to the coroner? What's the process?
The process now is that the CIB police team that have been conducting the interviews and gathering all the information will finalise their file later today, and that file will be referred to the coroner. I gather there may be some recommendations arising from that, but can't be too early to say at the moment.
Niue is on the verge of becoming the first Pacific island to eliminate hepatitis. It's being made possible through a joint initiative between Niue's health department and an NGO, the Global Health New Zealand. As World Hepatitis Day approaches this Sunday, Niue is awaiting validation from the World Health Organization to mark the historic milestone. Grace Viva-Ai has more.
Hepatitis affects everyone, everywhere. It comes in multiple forms and tears lives apart.
According to the World Health Organization, an estimated 354 million people worldwide live with hepatitis B or C. For Hazel Hill, she recalls how the virus almost consumed her, but she's come out the other side.
I had hepatitis C nearly all my adult life. I got very cirrhotic very early. I'd used up all the redundancy in my liver and had tipped over the point where my liver could cope. It's called decompensated cirrhosis.
She says people living with hepatitis should not be ashamed.
It's an accidental thing. There's no blame in it. There should be no shame or stigma in it. I faced a lot of discrimination in my dealings pretty much every time I encountered the health system in the early days.
Heel is also the co-founder of Global Health Organisation, focused solely on preventing and eliminating the disease.
Global Health New Zealand came into force so that we could have capacity to fundraise, do larger projects, but we've used it really to focus on viral hepatitis elimination. I fundraised for all of this privately through the Edmund Hillary Fellowship. We had some wonderful donors.
During the COVID lockdown in 2020, the Global Health Organisation screened over 1,500 people in Niue for hepatitis B and C. No cases of hepatitis C were identified, but treatment was provided for individuals who tested positive for hepatitis B.
Our plan was to test the entire population to see first the prevalence of hepatitis B and hepatitis C, and then to link them to care, to train the staff, and to help provide medication for anyone who may need.
WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says worldwide the goal is to eliminate hepatitis by 2030.
And several countries have participated in hepatitis elimination pilots, which will help WHO establish the validation process for certifying elimination. Despite these successes, most countries are still not on track for elimination by 2030.
Tongan nurse Yonema Vaitangi works at Fo'o Hospital in Niue and has dealt with hepatitis through his mother who contracted the virus. He says it was a struggle to deal with the symptoms.
It's really strong, the disease on my mom's side. At the time, we don't know what it is. We only know it's a liver problem. They always got sick. All of them have the same thing. All the bodies start wearing away, muscles wearing off, and big tummy and turn yellow. It was scary trying to go help them, but every day, every night, you hear them crying.
Professor Ed Gain, a liver specialist at Auckland City Hospital, says people in the Pacific are at greater risk of dying from the virus.
And hepatitis B and hepatitis C are the leading causes of liver cancer and liver death around the world. So if you live in the Pacific, be it Tonga, Niue, the Cook Islands, or Samoa, your risk of having hepatitis and of dying from hepatitis is more than 10 times that for people living in Western countries.
As Niue looks to eliminate hepatitis once and for all, Heel says it can be done for other Pacific countries too.
It's a shocking endemic problem throughout the Pacific, and it's really a lot for any government to take on because it requires an entire population response. So our group is looking to expand our program. We're interested in helping Tonga, we're interested in helping Samoa and Kiribati, all these other countries in the Pacific reach that goal of 2030.
An environmental charity in Tonga says the Australian company BHP suspending nickel mining is a bad sign for deep-sea mining. It comes as the International Seabed Authority is in Kingston, Jamaica to discuss mining regulations in the high seas. Belenatita Kara, deep-sea mining coordinator for Civil Society Tonga, told Caleb Fotheringham a global nickel oversupply would result in little economic benefits for Tonga if it decides to pursue deep-sea mining.
The closing down of the mining companies in Australia is something that we expected it will be happening around the world because deep-sea minerals have nickel, but we already have that on land as well. So since we have been advocating for a ban on using the deep-sea mineral, it's because we know that there's already stockpile and nickel has been around. And if people just recycle, I understand there's a whole lot more of nickel on land. We don't really need to go mine the deep to actually get that nickel. Secondly, there has been a diversion from the key use of nickel. So sodium batteries, because the nickel was needed for the electric batteries, and because there's a lot more companies now who are already using LBGs and sodium, the salt-based batteries, and it seems to be doing really well, and increasingly to be so. So the market demand for nickel is no longer as it was when the company started advocating for it way back 12 years ago in 2012 when I started campaigning on the space. So it does affect Tonga because if the nickel's value is going down, it means that this company might be mining, but Tonga is not going to receive much out of the contract. So it spells a lot of doom for Tonga because, the country might end up going through that whole mining process, and because it's specified nickel or specific for nickel, we might not even end up earning anything.
Okay, so when we talk about Tonga and where it is at with its deep sea mining discussions, obviously this company wants to start exploring Tonga's waters. Has that started yet, or are we still talking about?
It has. It has started, yes, because we signed a contract in 2008, but the ISA did not approve the contract for Tonga-sponsored company, which is the Nautilus then, to start exploring in the international water until 2012. But they did start exploring in our EEZ a couple of years before that. So the exploration still continues. So July is quite critical for Tonga because the ISA, or the International Seabed Authority, which is the UN mandated organization that is tasked with regulating and supervising the use of any minerals or resources in the international waters, this month they will make a decision whether they are going to pass the mining code. So we have been lobbying and rallying to delay the passing of the code because it's not even near finishing.
So in terms of the exploitation front, we're talking about the actual mining here. Does the ISA regulations have to pass first for the mining to take place in Tonga's waters, or is that just for international waters?
While it's specific for the international water, it has bearing on the sponsoring state, and there's a couple of Pacific Islands who are sponsoring states to a lot of contractors, because it will be from this ISA code that a lot of the small islands will take derivatives on what needs to happen in our island's mining act. Tonga has passed their deep sea mining act in 2014, but those were, I would say, those were standard basics. You know, you would not know what needs to go into a regulation until you have experience on what deep sea mining entails anyway. So that's why Tonga has yet to develop a regulation. We have passed our mining act, but no regulation yet. So we'll take derivatives from the main code of the ISA. And I have a feeling that, you know, until it passes a code, a lot of us in the islands would not know in real terms what needs to go into a regulation of a deep sea mining activity.
Despite retiring 12 years ago, Dame Carol Kiru remains the highest achieving woman in Papua New Guinea in politics. Dame Carol is the widow of Sir Buri Kiru, who became PNG's first Chief Justice in the 1990s, and for many years she was the Minister of Community Development. The former politician has had a number of projects since retirement, but most recently, as she told Don Wiseman, she's been overseeing the development of a small retreat, which will also be a workshop providing employment training.
When I retired from politics, I knew that I had to think about some sustainable future for late Saburi's family, so I decided to convert our home into a kind of a retreat, because we are on the beachfront, and we created Tutu Beach Retreat from my retirement money and from a little bit from my mum, from what I inherited from mum, etc. And we've created Tutu Beach Retreat. The hardest thing I've done, I think, harder than politics, trying to do a small business in the Motu cultural context is really hard. But that's another story. But as well as that, I wanted to do a learning centre here. The policy that I worked on when I was in politics, the Integrated Community Development Policy, which was based on community learning centres. And that I've been doing through donated funding, etc., and some in from myself, my personal money. Within this complex, there's a library, the Saburi Kiru Library, which we've had for quite a long time, but I've relocated now into a standalone building. And then underneath the library will be a training centre for larger workshops and things, and the workshops will be basically run by Guinea Goada Foundation, which I started when I started politics. And the library is going to be used as a FODE, Flexible Open Distance Education Centre, and that I'm doing in partnership with Kokoda Track Foundation, who run FODE correspondence centres in the rural areas. And they're now doing one on the Motu Koita West in Hanobada, and they're now doing it on the east with Pari and Taurama. So what I'm doing at Taurama, at Tutu, is being done in Pari as well, the FODE Centre and the Early Learning Centre. So the whole complex has flexible open distance education. It'll have training, workshop training, skills-based training workshop to try to lead to employment or self-employment, and it will have the early childhood component as well. A lot longer than I wanted, but it's getting there.
So what sort of training and who will do it?
Well, with the actual, what's part of the formal system of education, the Flexible Open Distance Education, FODE, I've got a partnership with the Kokoda Track Foundation, because they do it in many rural areas. I did try to do it earlier and just became too difficult. It's really quite a complex road, and it's part of the formal system of education. Our Prime Minister said it's a solution to education in Papua New Guinea, bless him, but it's not. It only takes in people who have got a grade 8 certificate of a certain level of grades. The others, no, it doesn't take them in. They're part of the push-outs of the country, and then it doesn't take in people who have no education. So this centre aims to take in anyone who is breathing and who wants to learn. That's our motto. If you're breathing, you can come to our courses. It's good if they're literate, but some courses don't require literacy.
Yes. All right. And tell me, in terms of the retreat, we're talking, is this a resort or?
Yeah, people call it resort, but I don't like to give it that name because people think it's going to be like Loloata Resort, which is really upmarket. So I call it a retreat, family-focused, and families come here for picnics. So it's affordable.
So you're going to provide meals, accommodation and so on?
There's accommodation. We only have 4 self-contained little rooms, and then we have a backpacker style. Just last Saturday, I had a group of university students from Canberra, from ANU, and I think they had a really good time. They really enjoyed it. They spent time here and went into the meetings in town from here. Then they went to Badang, and then they came back here. And I'm hoping that I can build up that market a little bit because people are afraid to come to Papua New Guinea. And, I mean, the students had a lovely time. They felt it was a really safe environment. They felt it was very friendly, like a family homestay type thing. And I need to build up that type of thing too. We don't want the drunken type clientele from Port Moresby. We do get it sometimes, and yes, we take their money, but we prefer a family-focused type of place where people can come, and our motto is relax, unwind, enjoy. And more families are coming out here, middle-income families, even lower-income families, to get away from Moresby on the weekends.
Yes, how far down the coast are you?
We're within the city limits. We're within the boundary of NCD, but it is customary land, and that, of course, has been a great headache as well. We're on customary land, and we're not the only ones on this block of land, so that is a bit of a headache. But, we've got to work through these issues.
That's Pacific Waves for today. To listen back, head over to rnz.co.nz/Pacific. We're also on Spotify, Apple and iHeartRadio. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā soifua.